Hi everyone, it's Jen again. Um, Sorry for not uploading a video last week. I just didn't really have anything to really talk about. I've been in a little bit of like a weird place mentally. I wouldn't say that I'm like depressed or in like a bad place in my life. I'm just kind of in this like meandering place mentally where I have all these different just things that I've been working on, little snippets here and there. I've been doing some like just close-up portrait art of some of the original love interests from Arcane Dice Wars. I was doing some just like for fun drawings of them wearing modern clothes. I was starting to design the next recruitable character, which I think he's going to be a pretty interesting addition to the cast, and I'm excited about his skill trigger of all things. And yeah, so there's I've been going over kind of like the next major story beat for A Villain's Heart. I've been going over the next like chapter story chapter for Arcane Dice Wars. I've been going over like what I want to do for making revisions to Arcane Dice Wars for implementing new quality of life features that I experimented with in Villain's Heart. So I'm kind of like all over the place with those two projects. All I can say confidently is that I'm definitely still very motivated to continue to work on them and hopefully finish them in the near future. But yeah, it's all kind of just in a state of like disarray. It's not very organized, and my approach has kind of been like just all over the place. I haven't been very like focused on a particular task, and I don't know if that's because like Otome Jam ended and I'm just kind of still trying to like decompress from that, or working with like the creative group that I'm organizing at the library. I'm not really sure why I'm so like scatterbrained about these things. Like maybe I'm just getting pulled in too many directions. I've been trying to get back into some of my independent contract work as well. So I feel like I'm being tugged in a lot of different directions, and I don't really have any type of cohesive story to share with you all online. But it did kind of bring forth like this topic that I have a pretty strong opinion on, and so I just thought I would like kind of share this random thought that I've been having bouncing around in my brain for like the last like decade about character design. So I really love designing characters, and I think it's one of those things that like, especially if you're not coming from like an art background when you're designing games, it might not be something that one necessarily considers quite as, I guess, thoroughly as I do. So I wanted to talk a little bit about like my background, or some of the things I have done that I feel like have helped me with approaching my characters and their designs, that people might not realize is something that I'm like considering as I'm like creating the characters. And one of the things that really I think like opened my eyes up to making more, I guess, mindful choices when I am creating my characters is the fact that I used to cosplay. When I used to do a lot of convention circuits on the East Coast, with selling like my artwork, I got into the cosplay community a little bit. I was never really super into the play acting of the characters, but I really did like designing or deconstructing the characters' designs and constructing the characters' garments and armor. And I think that when you actually have to, or you have the goal in mind to make your character designs have armor and clothing pieces that are actually wearable, and you have actually like done some designing patterns and constructing garments, it just gives you more of an idea of how clothing works. And it makes you more mindful of how it hangs, where the seams would be, where the wrinkling, like how it would hang and how it would feel to wear. And when I'm creating characters, I'm always trying to kind of like place myself in the mind of the characters. And so like I personally can't create characters that I couldn't envision them like making the mindful choice to like wear the outfits that they're wearing. So some of the things that kind of just really force me to, I guess, combat a lot of disbelief is when you have characters who are like living in the forest or traveling through a lot of like rough terrain and they're wearing like heels. Because I am a person who went through a phase of life of trying to like dress fashionably and everything, and like I could never adjust to heels. Like it didn't matter how expensive the shoes were, it didn't matter how much time I spent wearing the shoes. I just can't imagine somebody doing a lot of walking and choosing to wear heels because it's so uncomfortable, and it just would feel better like walking without shoes on. And I feel like wearing shoes with a high heel kind of does the opposite of what shoes should do. Like as far as like for a fashion statement, especially in like modern day life where like most of your traveling is going to be done in a vehicle, I can understand wearing heels for like the appearance wise. But like if I am just a person existing in a world where you have to do a lot of walking, or even worse, if I'm a person who's doing a lot of athletic activity such as like hard labor or fighting and combat where balance is so important, I can't justify in my mind why that character would make the conscientious choice to wear a pair of shoes that would basically do the opposite of what shoes should be doing, like protecting your feet and helping you traverse like landscape. So that is like one of the things that's kind of sort of grinds my gears or bothers me when I see it in like fantasy designs, is when the female characters especially are wearing like high heels, because it just makes it really hard for me to relate to that character and to take them seriously and to take whatever they're doing seriously, or to like believe that they are taking their job seriously as like, you know, as a fighter or as a person with like common sense. And I know it's just such a weird thing to get fixated on, but you'll notice that in none of my fantasy type character designs that I've done within probably the last like 20 years, when I really tried to confront like wearing high heels, I will just not make characters wearing high heels because it just doesn't make any sense to me. I can't justify, I can't create my character with dignity and with like respectfully and like make them choose to wear high heels. It doesn't mesh with me. So getting off my high horse about my strong feelings against high heels, I'm not saying that I can never like a character's designs with high heels. It's just there's definitely going to be like a huge suspension of disbelief on my part, and I am going to have a really hard time taking that character seriously. Like it's fine for like media that's not meant to be taken seriously, but like if you have like a plot line that's like dramatic and I'm supposed to really like empathize and relate with this character and feel like they are intelligent and you know, and capable, I'm gonna have a really hard time when they're wearing high heels if their job involves a lot of like athleticism. Okay, with that just out that off my chest, so to speak. One of the trends that I have been noticing that has especially with like modern day, I guess more modern day like techniques, and with like more high resolution and with live 2D and all these other things, I've been noticing a lot of like what I would consider like sort of over design. And a series that, a little known series that I personally happen to have a lot of like fond memories of is a game that was out for PS1. That was called Brigandine, and I think maybe about like 10 years ago they made a sequel. And so I'd like to use this as like an example of what I would consider like over design. And the series is called Brigandine, which interestingly enough, I think Brigandines in general are kind of like misunderstood amongst like armor and like the fantasy trope and everything. And I misunderstood it for a long time because I think we are kind of familiar with like similar type things, thinking of them as like leather studded or like type light armor, so to speak, within like the fantasy kind of like D&D and high fantasy kind of like worlds. We think of like this sort of like studded like leather armor and stuff as being kind of like what I would think of aesthetically as being similar to Brigandine. But you can see on the inside of this kind of like historical piece here, it is actually quite brilliant how these were constructed, in my opinion. Like, I love it from like just like a human ingenuity standpoint of this idea of taking like a canvas or a pattern piece of like flexible material and then just like riveting all these little plates to it, as far as like construction wise and comfort wise, is like wearing it as opposed to like plate mail. So it's a sort of a lower budget, easier to manufacture, and more comfortable alternative to plate mail. I'm not a historian, so I don't really know a lot of like super details about it, but like as far as my impression as like a cursory research, so a lot of like what I do is just like general knowledge. And I think that if you are making a fantasy type setting world, that you even just spending like maybe like a few hours just like researching, like just touching the surface of history, will give you a lot of ideas on where you can expand in your magical fantasy world. It'll just give you a lot of ideas because history is just so fascinating. Like all these things that are grounded in reality are just like kind of screaming to be like taken in a new twist and new direction. But like having that sort of like base history to start from, it will just cultivate a lot of ideas. So ironically, the original Brigandine game, you can see by like these kind of like character design, the character that's uncovered, they're not wearing Brigandine, they're wearing like plate mail. But I really liked the character design art for these games. It does look like kind of that older, I don't know, PlayStation, Super Nintendo era of like character designs. But I like very focused detail with contrasted with like very simple kind of like art as well. So it gives your eye like places of like detail to kind of like see, but then when you also zoom out on this character design, it gives you like very general strong shapes as well, because it's not over decorated, and the color palette is like relatively simple, but like this character design has very distinctive shapes and colors, with a few like very focused like details to give it a little bit of more interest, a little bit more ornateness, to say, okay, this person is a person of stature or importance, because they do have kind of like these like little special details kind of like sparsely placed throughout their character design. But the shapes are very like strong and simple, and it gives an overall like very easy impression of like who this character is, and can help them kind of like stand out in a lineup. So like if I were to like look at like the cast of characters, it's so hard to find artwork for this game posted online. You can see how each one of the characters has a distinctive look, color, and shapes that kind of define them. So even if they were like all kind of like mingled together in a tight crowd, each one of these characters like stands apart. from the other, and you would be able to like find them easily in like a Where is Waldo kind of like crowded landscape. The more modern version of Brigandine that came out, I think maybe like 10 years ago. So let's do a search, and this is like that kind of over design that I was like talking about that I'm not a huge fan of, is when we look at even just like the cover art, it has overall like a very like muddy appearance. Like you can look at each individual character and say like, oh, that is like some really beautiful detail, like look at all the intricacy, like what a gorgeous piece. And I think that's fine for like illustration of like kind of standalone pieces that are not trying to establish distinctive characters. But when I look at the art overall for like this game, I can't really distinguish any of the characters from each other. I can't even really distinguish what they're wearing. Like it looks like a big like muddy desaturated mess, to be honest. And then if I were to actually try to go in and think about like constructing these garments like to wear, there's so many details that just look super uncomfortable or super impractical that they wouldn't stay in place. Let me take one of the female characters who's actually like wearing more cloth than the others. Like just trying to imagine how to keep this garment on your body without like copious amounts of like tape. It just doesn't make any sense. There's no place for it to structurally actually hold up and then like allow the way like the fabric were to flow. It's like you would have to have like another piece like kind of hidden inside of it, almost like sort of like wireframing, to actually get it to like sit in the shape that this artwork wants to make it like flowing. And so like these are the types of designs that I think are like, it's a beautiful illustration. But like design wise, like even thinking about like animating this character is just like not attractive to me. And again, there's that like, peeve, the heels. So there's a lot of things about this design that are just like not my cup of tea. And it's not the fact that the character is like, got kind of like a sexy silhouette, or like how she has like a plunging like neckline. You can do these things and actually have the garment like support itself and make sense and have it fit and like hang in a way that you could actually reconstruct. But like there's just like certain choices in this design that automatically like just defy the laws of like physics, and like it would make it like pretty much impossible to like actually like wear without like just an insane amount of like under the garment kind of tricks to like make it stay in place and make it like hang the way that it looks like in the artwork. So really, I think the biggest offense with me with like this new cast of characters is, again, like none of these silhouettes stand out from each other. None of these like designs kind of like stand out from each other. Every single group shot just looks like a bunch of like kind of like muddy, just nothing like really distinctive. And if they were like in a lineup or in like a Where's Waldo kind of situation, it would just be like, it would strain my eyes so badly trying to even like tell the characters apart, let alone actually find them individually in like a crowd. So this was super disappointing to me when I see like a series or a game that I really liked and go in this direction, and like so many of these series that I have like a very nostalgic attachment to, like the designs and the games of like the kind of that era of like PlayStation 1 and like Super Nintendo, have gone in this direction like art style wise. And so maybe I'm just a grumpy old person. Like, let me know if you agree or disagree. You don't have to agree. Again, I recognize I have super strong opinions, and I don't think of my opinions as being like the end all, like be all. It's just my personal taste. But I especially dislike the direction that a lot of these art has gone into in like the last, I don't know, I guess last 10 years or so, with this what I would consider to be over designed, just kind of like mess. So yeah, and again, it's not that I don't have appreciation for the art as a standalone piece, like the details and everything are super gorgeous, but like as far as going for character design in a game where I want to become attached to the characters and I want to see them like animated and movement and doing exciting activities like fighting and traversing, the wilderness. This just totally. I couldn't play this game. I there was like a demo that was like on the PlayStation Store, and I didn't get past like the first like I don't know 10 minutes of it, which might have been a shame because maybe when I actually started playing it, I would actually enjoy it. But like the introduction was just so long, and I was just kind of put off by the designs and the art direction of it that I just couldn't. So I know there's going to be people who disagree with me who are going to be like, I love the way like this more detailed artwork looks and this stuff looks so dated and simple, but like this is more my jam. I'll be honest. Look, I think she's wearing flats. I'm pretty sure that looks like a cloth like kind of slipper that she's wearing. Okay. So this was a cosplay that I did of the Disciples of Cain from the Warhammer MMO. And these are old pictures of me, so like this was like me in my 20s. I don't cosplay anymore. But you can see that I did do some making armor and weapons. And the silhouette of the overall design was pretty easy to recreate. And I loved all the little details in the armor as well. So I really loved like the character design for the Disciples of Cain. And again, it was like something that, okay, I am wearing heels, but I'm not actually a warrior. It was something that sort of like made sense to me. I could move around in. And again, it's not like perfect as far as like if I want to actually think about armor and its functionality and like what I would want to wear if I was like an actual like combatant and how effective the armor would be at protecting me. But at least I could like I could construct it. I didn't need to resort to copious amounts of tape to get it to work. And so I really did like that design. Another design that I really like, and I always have like a soft spot for mages, was Soren from Fire Emblem series. So this was kind of like just creating a bunch of robes and figuring out how to do like all the details and like kind of like here you can see like on the edges of the robe and stuff where I was trying to figure out how to put in some of the more intricate patterns. And so I think that this particular design was really hitting like the sweet spot for me, like where it's like you could see some of those like the more like little intricate details on the detailing of the robe, but you also had like plain more flat pieces like the main part of his robes. You can kind of see here a little bit more where there wasn't much detailing. There's a few like little weird like little belts and like laces that wouldn't necessarily make a lot of functional sense, but it gave like some interesting detail. But again, it was like kind of like sparsely placed and placed in a way that sort of like made sense and didn't make it difficult to wear or like completely impractical to construct. So I really liked that design a lot too. And then as far as like, I guess a more like what's the word? A little bit more like a kind of sexy design that I really like was Velvet from Odin Sphere. And again, it was like a character design that doesn't totally make a lot of sense for like, what do you call it? For like, I guess just like practicality. But it was a beautiful design, and you could actually wear it without having, it be constructed in a way that it just like parts wouldn't like hold themselves up, or you have to use like a bunch of like weird stiff material inside your fabric in order to get things to make the shapes that you want them to make. These were shapes that you could create with just fabric, and you could wear it and move around without worrying about anything like slipping off or like going into the wrong direction. So I had a lot of fun making this costume. It was actually a little bit more challenging. Like, strangely enough, making a costume with like less material covering you, you had to be like more deliberate in making everything like sort of like perfectly fitted than in a costume like this robe where it could be, you know, like somebody else like within a certain size range could wear this costume versus like this costume was very tailored for like me at this specific time in my life where you would probably have to try to find like a clone or somebody who was very close to the same like height and shape as me in order to like wear this. It was like fitted like a glove, you could say. And because the material was not that stretchy, it didn't have a lot of give to for somebody else to wear it, or even me to wear it. Like if I were to like just change my shape even just like a little bit. So yeah, those were some of like the attempts that I made for recreating costumes, and one of the reasons why I am really like enamored when I look at costume designs. And like one of the things that I really think about when I look at character art is I think about like how this costume would be constructed, how you would be able to get the material to like both stand up and hang down the way that is depicted in the artwork. And if you can do these things in a way that makes sense, I will automatically like design a little bit more. And I don't think that I would think of these things intentionally if I didn't have the experience of actually like costuming. So if you are ever bored and you like character designs a lot and you want to improve your character designs, I would say, yeah, doing a little bit of like research on just very general research on armor and clothing historically and modern is useful, and trying to recreate some of your favorite character designs to wear as costumes is very helpful. Yeah, that's all I've got to say. And if you've got any